Hi guys, and welcome to this video on the full moon in Cancer that happens on the 13th of January 2025. Thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure to be with you today as always. And as you can see from the background, which is a little messy, I'm afraid, I've successfully moved to Cornwall and I'm really happy in my new home. So thank you to everyone who supported me and wished me well along the way. It's worked out really nicely. The chart you see next to me here, that's a snapshot of the sky at the moment this full moon takes place, and it also conveniently hides the mess. So it's serving two purposes in this video. What I'm going to do in this reading is I'm going to have a look at the chart of the full moon, when it happens, how the planets interact with each other, what energy they create amongst themselves, and how that's going to influence you. And once I've done that, I'm going to go through each sign of the zodiac from Aries through to Pisces to give you a specific message for your sign. And please watch my horoscopes in this order: for your rising sign or your ascendant first, then for your sun sign, and finally for your moon sign. Now, I've labeled this moon as the self-care moon. It's the first full moon that we have in 2025, and it's a wonderful opportunity to examine the connections you have in your life, the relationships you have, and which ones actually serve you and which ones don't, and how you can kind of conserve your energy and become smarter in who and what you connect with and what you can let go of. So we've got the sun at 23 degrees in Capricorn. That is 180 degrees away from the moon. It opposes it. So the moon is at 23 degrees in Cancer and it's fully illuminated. And as far as the moon is concerned, this is the moment in its 28-day cycle where it reaches its completion point. It celebrates that it's completely lit up. It lets go of all of its energy and it showers us with its energy, in this case, Cancer energy. That's why some people often find it difficult to sleep during a full moon period because the energy is so strong. But the amazing thing about this full moon is that the moon actually rules Cancer. So it's in its preferred sign. And if I'm looking at a natal chart, so if I'm looking at your birth chart, for instance, the sun represents your head, your conscious awareness, what you're striving towards, and what promises to empower you. The moon is your heart, it's your home, it's what you feel on an innermost level, it's your instincts, it's your gut feeling, it's your intuition. So with this full moon at 23 degrees in Cancer, it offers a number of things. So first of all, you're going to feel very much connected with your own kind of instincts, your own inner voice. And if there's anything that's off in your life, that inner voice is going to make you aware of that. And it's going to say, hey, hang on a minute, before you rush off into action, look at this connection that you've got, examine and analyze whether it actually makes sense, whether it serves you, or whether it's actually something that's harmful. And if there is a connection in your life that doesn't support you, it'll urge you and prompt you to let go of that and instead to focus on things that are nurturing and that feed your soul and that feed you on a spiritual and physical level. This is very much about how can I take care of myself, how can I parent myself, and how can I attain emotional freedom by being my own best friend. So the moon in Cancer is very psychic and intuitive, but it's also very good at connecting with other people in a loving way. So this period is likely to serve you when it comes to your relationships that you have with other people in the world. It also allows you to connect to the higher realm. So if you're someone who's on a spiritual quest, if you've been looking to have a spiritual awakening or spiritual breakthrough, this full moon really supports you in that regard. And there's also the opportunity for great healing to occur. The sun then at 23 degrees in Capricorn is very willing to do the work. And Capricorn is an interesting sign because it's an earth sign, but it's often represented as a goat that has a fishtail. So it's able to do the practical work, to do the heavy lifting, to do things in the real physical world and to say, I need to get this done and I need to work my way through it. But it's also willing to do the inner work. So to look at your own thought patterns, your own beliefs, and to say, if this isn't something that empowers you, if this isn't something that makes you feel better and happier in life, then let's do the work and let's change that. Again, at 23 degrees, the promise here is if I do the external or the internal work, I'm going to have more freedom in my life. So next to the moon, we have Mars. Mars is the red planet of ambition and drive and masculinity. And that's at 27 degrees in Cancer. Now, whereas the moon is very happy being in Cancer, Mars isn't. Mars rules Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. It's a fire sign. And the symbol for Aries is the ram. So Mars in Aries is very delighted to overcome obstacles and to bulldoze its way through things in order to get what it wants, right? When Mars is in Cancer, it's forced to consider the needs of other people, and it needs to use all of its energy to nurture and to support and to connect. If I'm looking at a natal chart and I see Mars in Cancer, I often see that as an image of someone with steam coming out of their ears because it's frustrated. The great thing about this Mars in Cancer placement, though, is that Mars is currently in retrograde until the 23rd of February. And when one of the personal planets, so Mercury, Venus, or Mars, when they retrograde, they appear to go backwards, and the pressure is off in the case of Mars when it is retrograde. So often it can mean that there's less energy or less drive or less focus or less of a sense of purpose, as in this is what I need to do, this is what I need to accomplish. You know, this really intense kind of vibe that says I must achieve what I set out to do. And it cools the discomfort of Mars being in Cancer. So this placement next to the moon actually means that you're able to enjoy this completion point of the moon releasing all of its energy. And Mars then says, before you rush off and before you take care of another person or yourself or make some sort of contribution to the world, let's examine what this situation is. Does it support you? Does it offer you something? Or are you giving all of your time and energy to someone or to something that really is pointless or even detrimental? It's at 27 degrees, 2 and 7 is 9, and 9 in numerology is spirituality and completion. In the tarot, the ninth card in the major arcana is the Hermit. And the Hermit is someone who's looking for enlightenment, who's looking for greater meaning, right? So this Mars connection, it's conjunct to the moon. It's very philosophical, it's very spiritual, and it's very much about getting answers before it uses all of its great strength and power. So the combination of the two, I think, is fabulous because you're going to really be enlightened when it comes to any of the things that are within your vicinity, the people in your life, your spiritual beliefs and your spiritual practices, what you use to express yourself on a creative level, whether that's art or journaling or performing or flower arranging or anything like that. It asks you to stop for a moment and to say, is this something that makes you feel good? Is this something that makes you feel like you have a warm, loving parent by your side in spiritual truth? And is this activity something that you want to continue? So the question is very clear. It kind of is black and white, and it says, if you're someone who spends a lot of time and energy on something, if that doesn't offer you anything in return, or if it makes you feel bad, or if it's bad for your health in any way, if there's any negativity attached to it, then please let go of that and make space in your life to bring in something else that is positive, that is nurturing and supportive. The moon then forms a few other connections. It's 10 degrees away from Hades at 13 degrees in Cancer. And that's really interesting as well because I use 10-degree orbs, so it's just a conjunction. It's still just qualified. And to me, Hades in a chart represents the things that you really don't want to look at, the things that seem hellish and uncomfortable and difficult, right? So if there's anything in your life that you're doing that's actually harmful to yourself, whether that's your diet or you have certain ways of thinking that put you in a negative mindset, and it's really so ingrained that you don't want to look at it, you don't want to change it because even the idea of change, of doing things differently, seems really painful and uncomfortable. So we all have things in our lives that really don't support us. Sometimes we overreact, or sometimes we think in ways that have nothing to do with reality. And this is a full moon here at the beginning of 2025, where you're able to examine yourself and to say, really, how can I be more supportive by engaging with things that are healthy and positive, and that mean that this period here in January, but also 2025, is a year where I'm being the best version of myself, and I'm doing things for me and for other people that are valuable. And how can I make a positive contribution? That little duck agrees with me on that. It then forms other relationships. Or before I do that, actually, I want to look at the sun and what that's connected to, because the sun is really the thing that lights up this full moon. What's interesting is that the sun is at 23 degrees in Capricorn, and then at 1 degree in Aquarius, we have Pluto. So that's also a conjunction. Pluto is the planet of transformation and change, death and rebirth. It's the phoenix rising from the ashes, and it's in Aquarius, and it's been in Aquarius for the first time since January 2024, so this time last year. And Pluto in Aquarius is really about, what new ideas can I bring into my life? How can I be of service to myself and to others? Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian and the teacher, and at 1 degree, 1 being the vibration of the pioneer, the boss, the magician, the person who initiates, sitting right next to the sun, it really puts your own identity under the spotlight, but not in an uncomfortable way where you feel like you're being scrutinized, but in a way that says, hey, this is where you're at in life, this is how you feel, and these are the people in your life, and this is your job, this is what's going on right now. What other options are there? What other ideas can we consider and implement so that your everyday experience is more positive? And also, how can you develop as a person in a positive way? You know, if you're the same exact person that you were at 20, now, however many years later, then I don't think that's the way it ought to work. I think that as we go through life and as we have certain experiences, we learn and we change as people. And this is an opportunity to expand and to change and to grow towards something that's more aligned with the things that are labeled as good in life. So being of service to other people, being charitable, teaching, being willing to learn, being willing to listen, being willing to let go of unhealthy behavior patterns and habits, and instead bringing in positive ones. On the other side, we have Pallas next to the sun. Pallas represents wisdom, and that is at 17 degrees in Capricorn. 1 and 7 is 8, and that's power. So there's real wisdom about the self. There's this process of maturing here during this full moon in Cancer. There's an added willingness to change, and there's a wisdom that says, this is who I am, and this is who I could be. And it's almost like this full moon presents you with the dream version of yourself that you could be in future. So if you close your eyes for a moment during this full moon and you contemplate that, what would be the ideal version of myself? It's very likely that you get a mental image of what that person looks like and how that person feels and what area that person is in. And it's not just a dream, it's an image, a version of yourself that's attainable. And by doing the work, you can actually get there. Mercury is at 7 degrees in Capricorn, so it doesn't technically conjunct the sun, but it's nearby these other two, the luminary, the sun, Pluto and Pallas. It's close enough, I feel, to have an influence. And Mercury is direct at the moment. Mercury is the communication planet. So the information that comes in, you can trust, it's accurate, it's on point. So if you're getting the message, hey, make some changes. You can trust that voice and you can actually act on it. The outcome is what it promises to be. It's at 7 degrees in Capricorn. So that says you can do the work, you can be creative, but also you can see yourself as a work in progress, as a thing that isn't quite completed yet. And you can put all of your focus and attention on yourself again and on this vision of the best version of you, and you can start to work towards it. But the key thing is that you see it first. You're able to comprehend what that would look like. So if we're going back to the moon then, the moon forms a sextile with Uranus at 23 degrees in Taurus. Uranus is the planet of the miraculous and the unexpected. And at 23 degrees in Taurus, it says, your circumstances as they are right now are not that important. They're not that significant. They will change. You have freedom from them. Your circumstances don't define you, but instead you define them. So again, that combination of the moon and Uranus puts all the power in your heart, in yourself, your identity. And if you want to change as an individual, then the circumstances around you are going to change after the fact. So you change first, the dynamic changes, the energy you give off is different, and therefore your circumstances around you are going to alter as well. The moon also forms a semi-square, so it's 45 degrees away from Jupiter, the lucky planet, the great benefic, the planet of growth and prosperity and good fortune, and that's at 12 degrees in Gemini. 1 and 2 is 3, that's communication and new beginnings, and Gemini is the sign of the communicator. So what's happening here is that you're really able to almost open a doorway into your own heart to see what are my hopes and dreams for myself, for the future, for my own life. And the good luck here is that you're actually able to see that version of yourself in a way that's crystal clear, so that you can start to move towards it and to take the action steps required to get to that place. And I also just want to qualify this, because I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with any of us, right? I think all of us try our best and we are where we are in life, and that's the end of it. But what I'm also saying is that the ideal, or there is this notion that as we go through life, we learn and we become more complete and we become more generous and we become more our true selves, or the self that we choose to be. So this is one of those key moments in life where you get to decide what kind of presence do you want to represent on this planet. What is your life all about, and how do you make people around you feel? What is it that you give off? And if there's anything that you think that isn't particularly something you'd be proud of, again, you're able to let go of that, and you can create space within yourself to replace that with a positive attribute that you would be proud of. The moon then also forms a square with Chiron at 19 degrees in Aries. Chiron is the wounded healer, and this square becomes a grand cross because there's another square going from Chiron to the Sun and Pallas in Capricorn. They then square Black Moon Lilith at 21 degrees in Libra, and that squares back to the Moon and Mars in Cancer. That's called a grand cross, and if I see a grand cross in a natal chart, it means that that person is very energized, there's a lot of friction in their life, but that there are a lot of different areas of interest that kind of push and pull that person in lots of different directions, to the point where they become confused and they end up doing nothing, because there's so much that needs doing that it becomes overwhelming, and it's like, okay, well, which one do I look at first? So in this case, the Grand Cross, first of all, connects with Chiron in Aries. So the prompt of that is heal yourself. Take action to take any of these things in your own self, in your mind, in your soul, in your body that feel painful and difficult, and become willing to let those things be healed, right? That then squares the Sun and Palace. So the healing is done by doing the work and saying, I acknowledge who I am and who I want to become, and I'm going to do the work. Going over to Black Moon Lilith in Libra at 21 degrees, other people may help you in that process, but it's really not about other people. It's about you, and it's about being able to be your own parent and to take care of yourself. The moon then also forms a sesqui square, so it's 135 degrees away from Venus at 11 degrees in Pisces. Venus is the planet of love and beauty and creativity. 11 is the master number of service, and Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's a water sign, and that's the sign that's very much about a connection to the higher realms, and it's hindsight, and it's a very forgiving perspective. It's almost like I have lived my life, and now I can look back on it, and I can be very generous with myself and see what was good and what wasn't so great. And now I'm getting ready to prepare for my next incarnation, or my next journey, the place I'm going to after completing this lifetime, right? So Venus in this placement opens up the realms of spirit, which allow you to really use your own intuition and imagination to see this healed version of yourself that you want to become. And next to Venus is Saturn at 15 degrees in Pisces, and that's the opportunity to have the time and patience, similarly to Mars being in retrograde, to say, before I rush off, I'm going to see the spiritual version of myself first, and then I'm going to imprint that on the physical version of myself. So spirit first, and then the body, mind over matter. And you're able to delve into your soul being, so to speak, and to really heal that. And that's going to have the side effect that on a physical level, certain things may be healed. Your relationships with other people may be less strained. The kind of things you attract in your life may gradually and naturally and organically improve, simply because you're now healed, and like often attracts like. So the work that you're doing during this full moon is really, really worthwhile, because it's going to pay off in practical, almost measurable kind of ways. The full moon then also forms a trine with Juno at 22 degrees in Scorpio. And Scorpio is a water sign that's very much about diving down beyond the depths and getting to the root cause of things. 22 is the master number of the builder, and Juno is like what brings joy. It's what's eternally sunny. So you could say that's a contradiction, being in Scorpio, which is often seen as the darkest and most intense of the signs. But what's so wonderful about this is that you are able to examine yourself with a sense of love and joy, like a loving parent would, and you're able to pluck out those things that cause you pain again, and to let go of them, and to create these wonderful open spaces within you that can then be filled with things that are joyful and nurturing and supportive, and all the other things that I've mentioned. The full moon also squares Black Moon Lilith, which I've already mentioned. Then it sextiles the ascendant in Virgo. If I'm looking at your natal chart, the ascendant or the rising sign, that represents your default setting, what you naturally embody. And Virgo at 26 degrees here, 2 and 6 again, 8 is power. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, the communication planet, and Virgo loves to analyze information, and it loves to be a specialist. It loves to have really specific, in-depth, detailed knowledge. And the fact that this is the rising of this amazing chart means that you become an expert about yourself. And if you have felt in the past that I am willing to change, but I can't, this full moon offers you the opportunity to overcome that hurdle, to jump over that obstacle, and to say, well, in the past it may not have worked, but it does now. So this is really super, super hopeful full moon at the beginning of the year that allows you to become the best version of yourself that you've always dreamt of. What I've also noticed is that we've got some other major aspect patterns in the center wheel of this chart. It's really complicated. We have a mystic rectangle. So the moon trines the part of fortune and the descendant in Pisces. That then sextiles the sun, Pluto, and Pallas. Those trine the south node in Libra and the rising in Virgo, and they sextile back to the moon in Cancer. A mystic rectangle really is what the name is all about. It means that there's a mystical connection to the higher realms, and that's what this full moon, that's what I've been talking about in this whole video, is that you are like the hermit, you're the mystic, you're the person who can have this awakening about the self that you are right now and the self that you could become. We also have two kites in this chart. So a kite is made up of a grand trine. That in a natal chart, if I see a grand trine, that in its own right represents a major talent. But then if it becomes a kite, it's a talent that's even more heightened, and that when used can serve as your legacy that you'll be remembered for. So the first grand trine connects Uranus in Taurus with the ascendant in Virgo. It then trines over to the sun and Pallas in Capricorn and goes back to Uranus. So the big talent here is the willingness to do the work, to analyze the circumstances as they are, to see beyond the surface of them, and to say, if I take different actions, the circumstances are naturally going to change. So I don't really need to worry about what is in my life right now, whether I live in the place that I want or I have the job that I want. The priority is me. And if I heal myself, then all of those other things will be naturally healed anyway. And that then becomes a kite, and it peaks with the moon and Mars in Cancer. So all of this willingness to do the work and this open doorway into your own soul, you're able to tinker with yourself and to make those improvements that I've mentioned. Then we have another grand trine, and let me just find it. This one connects the full moon in Cancer. That then trines over to Juno in Scorpio, which trines the part of fortune and the descendant in Pisces, and it trines back to the full moon in Cancer. So this grand trine is in water, and the talent is to have this emotional, intuitive awareness that allows you to kind of access yourself on a soul level. And that becomes a kite via the sun and Pallas in Capricorn. So it's water and earth. So I have the emotional access to my own being, and then I have the conscious awareness to do the work to make any of these very intangible, almost nebulous changes in my life to myself. So as you can see, we've got a ton of energy and a ton of major aspect patterns at the center of this wheel. And, you know, if I'm looking again at a natal chart, if I see one grand trine, that's special. If I see a mystic rectangle, that's special. If I see a grand cross, that's pretty rare. But to see all of these super intense major aspect patterns during this first full moon of the new year, it means that the universe is extending itself to you. It's saying, you have the power to change. You have the power to be whoever you want to be. You don't need to believe what others have said about you. You don't need to follow the narrative that other people have written for you. You're the author of your own story, and you are the artist that designs the self that you want to grow into. So I love this because sometimes, I don't know about you, but at certain times in my life, I felt powerless over myself. There are certain things where I've behaved in a way that I wasn't proud of, and I felt like, wow, I have no ability to alter that. And that wasn't true, because when I started to meditate, when I started to look at the spiritual aspects of life, that then in turn changed those behaviors that I at times was ashamed of. So the answer here is to go inward and to look at yourself as a spiritual being first and to heal that. And then the other stuff, the the body, the behaviors, the thinking, that will be healed as a side effect of this full moon work. Okay. So I hope that gives you an idea of these major aspect patterns. I'm just double checking that I've not missed anything. No, I don't think I have. Let's look at each sign of the zodiac then. Aries, you may question your most important relationships during this full moon in Cancer. You may have interactions that make you examine what everyone brings to the table, yourself included. Whether you get the support that you give to others, who you want to continue to support in your life, where you get something in return, and whether those things make sense. Anything where there is pressure or undue influence in your life, you may start to really bristle against that and decide that you no longer want to live under someone else's thumb. And what I mean by that is you no longer want to be controlled by anybody else. You want to, again, write your own story. You want to live the life that you want to live, and you have the right to do that. So if you're an Aries who's under a lot of pressure to conform, or certain people in your life have a lot of control over you, expect to really react against that in quite a strong way. And don't be afraid of anger. That is something that can allow you to break free during this full moon in Cancer. Taurus, the question for you is, are you using your knowledge and expertise in a way that benefits you and those around you? Or are you operating on a level that is too simple and not challenging enough? It's the perfect opportunity for any Taurus to make a change in their working life or what you're studying, and to ensure that the things that you're working towards are a good fit and that they use all of your skills and talents, rather than kind of doing things which seem almost too simple and that you could do in your sleep. Gemini, this full moon is an opportunity to examine your financial circumstances, income and outgoings, and what you can do to take care of yourself in a way that is better and that is more sustainable. You'll find it easy to end unnecessary outgoings, and will get ideas on what other options are available to you to increase your income. Whether you work full-time, whether you're a student, whether you're retired, you'll get new ideas to bring more abundance into your life and to get rid of some of the waste or the excesses. Cancer, this is your full moon, so you'll be showered with your own energy, so there'll be a great sense of well-being here. But you're going to be able to let go of unhealthy thoughts and habits that don't serve you. You'll also be able to see which relationships in your life make unreasonable demands of you, and whether you want to continue to give of yourself in those kind of situations, or whether you want to put an end to those types of relationships. So you're able to really put firm and clear boundaries in place that make your life a lot more functional and supportive of you. Leo, what role does spirituality play in your life, and how does that affect you on an everyday practical level? Do you have beliefs that serve and empower you, or are you applying limiting beliefs or accepting limiting beliefs that minimize you and that put your light under a bushel? This full moon is an opportunity for any Leo who is stuck in a belief system or in a faith that isn't constructive or empowering, and you have the opportunity here to break free from that, to break out of it, and to claim beliefs and values that actually do work for you and make you feel stronger and happier in life. Virgo, what are your hopes and dreams for your life, and where have you thrown in the towel? Where have you given up? For you, this is an opportunity to broaden your mindset and to remember that miracles can and do happen, and that you do deserve love, joy, and happiness in your life. So which hopes and dreams can you pick back up, and how can you move towards those where before there was only stagnant resignation or even disappointment? How can you start again and try again? Because during this time, you will really truly feel that you deserve to be happy and that you deserve to live a life that's joyful. Libra, in what area of your life are you doing too much out of fear? So for instance, if you're afraid of losing a relationship or even a job, how does that fear make you overcompensate? That response, that overcompensation, may be draining to you. And during this full moon period, you have the opportunity to create more balance in your life and to spend your time and energy appropriately and to put the fear aside. Scorpio, what could you explore to give you a greater sense of joy in life? Have you always wanted to visit a particular place, but you never seem to have the time or the opportunity to go there? Or what is it that you've wanted to learn or study that fascinates you, but that you, again, never have enough time for, or the chance never seems to appear? Become aware of these specific goals and plan ahead by scheduling them into your calendar and then simply make them happen. So make the time to have these wonderful experiences that you've always wanted to have but have never really been able to get around to. Sagittarius, what institutions or authorities are you giving your power away to? Are you stuck in a job that doesn't pay you very well, but you tolerate it because it offers you security? Are there areas of your life where you're kind of lackadaisical and taking losses because the alternatives seem boring or time-consuming or difficult? You can get these affairs in order so that you're reducing any waste in your life. And that's, for you, this full moon in Cancer, the opportunity to take care of yourself in that kind of a way, to take on the tasks that seem most boring or dull or, Capricorn, which of your relationships do you work on where there's absolutely no point? So for instance, are you trying to make someone or several people like you because you want to belong to a group? But whatever you do, the outcome never appears and you never get that warm embrace that you're looking for. So who are you giving to freely and generously and never get a basic thank you in return? Look at the people in your life who have decided against you for whatever reasons that are unknown to you. And actually believe those feelings. Believe how they respond to you. And then let them go. Accept it and be done with it. Don't try and get people to be something that they don't want to be in your life. Put a quote here. Like Maya Angelou says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. So for you, Capricorn, don't try so hard. Aquarius, what messages from your own intuition have you ignored? How are you pushing yourself on a daily basis that's likely to lead to exhaustion or even burnout? During this full moon in Cancer, you'll be able to listen to your own instincts, to believe those messages, and to make changes so that you're living in a more sustainable way. And that you're treating your own body and your own mind and your own soul more kindly. And that can be as simple as realizing that your diet doesn't support you and give you the energy that you need, so that you need to make some changes there. As an example. Pisces, for you this is interesting because the question is, have you missed or ignored someone in your life who genuinely loves and supports you? Have you been off chasing some sort of a dream while something or someone wonderful has been right under your nose all along? During this full moon, you'll be able to see where you were blind before, and you can express gratitude or even just acknowledge the good that you've been given, that you may have overlooked in the past. And you're able to correct that oversight. So that's what I get for you guys during this full moon in Cancer. I hope that gives you an idea of what you'll be working with. If you would like a personal reading with me, please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. Click on the shop tab to order your reading with me. In my personal readings, I use astrology, the tarot, numerology, and my intuition. I combine all of them to answer any questions you may have. To draw up your astrology chart, I need your place of birth, date of birth, and time of birth. If you don't have the time of birth, then please order a chart rectification with me. That's a process where I'll work it out once you send me certain significant life events. But if I can still draw up your chart even without the time of birth, I can use sunrise. But the problem with that is that I don't see the correct ascendant and that the house placements are off. I'll still be able to look at the planets though. Also, if you'd like me to do a reading for you using just astrology or just the tarot or just the numbers, that's totally doable. Just let me know what your preferences are and I can totally accommodate that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up so it shows up in searches. Subscribe for more videos in future. And please share this video with anyone who you think may like this and may benefit from this information. If you would like to watch the daily tarot reading that I do on this channel, then please become a member of the channel. And recently, I've also rediscovered Instagram. I had an Instagram account years ago that was problematic because people kept impersonating me. But I'm now back on Instagram. And I'm in the process of getting that verified, so hopefully that won't be an issue. Because I'm quite a visual person, I love images, so for me, Instagram is like my own personal photo album, so I really enjoy posting on there. And for instance, like I moved recently, I filmed a live video on Instagram showing the area and things like that. So if you want to see the more personal parts of my life, I post those on Instagram. The username is Real Gregory Scott. So if you're interested in that, then please join me on Instagram. I hope this video has been useful to you. I hope you have a wonderful time during this full moon in Cancer. Have an amazing couple of days or amazing few days. And I'll speak to you soon. All the best. Take care.